Guys, let's animate this text in After Effects in just a few minutes. Let's create a new composition, and my width is 1920 and height is 1080. It's fine, and duration is around 12 seconds, so it's also fine. So I'll simply just click on this OK. And now let's create a new background. So I'll click on new and I'll click on solid and let's make it black for now. And now let's add some text. So I'll click on my type tool and I'll add my text. Alright, so let's change the fill of this to white and change its size to make it bigger. Also, I will change its font to bold, and that's it for this text. So to animate this text, we will expand this text and I'll go to this animate and we will choose two properties. One is the opacity and the second one is position. Let me expand this so you can see better. Now guys, at this first frame, the position of this would be around 100. Because I want this to appear from the bottom to the top, and the opacity will be 0. Now expand this range selector in this animator 1 and click on this offset and make it -100, and then after a few frames make it complete 100. Now after adding keyframes to this offset, expand this advanced and go to this shape and change from scale to ramp up. So guys, this is how your animation is going to look, and it's animating this alphabet by alphabet. So in order to change that, you can simply just go to this based on characters to words. Now guys, let's add another word to this same text. So I'll double click on it and I'll add my second word. Now let's change its size and its font family and also its color. So I'll make it a little bigger and I'll make it a little more bold. And let's change its color to any color you want. So I'll make it a little green. So this is how your text is going to appear, and now we need to give it a secondary motion, and to make that secondary motion we need to create a new null layer. So I'll click on new and I'll click on this null. Now parent this text layer to this null. So I'll click on this and I'll click on this null, and now it's linked to this null. Now guys, let's select this null and press S for scale and put a keyframe on this null at this point. And now we need to add a position keyframe as well. So I'll press P and I'll put a keyframe at this point for both. I'll press U to check both the keyframes are aligned or not. Now guys, in the beginning we want this to be scaled up a little. So I'll go to the start and I'll make it a little bigger like this. And this is how it's gonna appear right now. Let's make it a little more bigger, and now it's looking like this. Now guys, select these both keyframes and press F9 to easy ease, and if you open this graph editor you will see. Let's make this animation a little more smoother to something like this. And guys, if you don't see this graph, you can go to this setting and then go to this edit speed graph. So guys, right now this is how my animation is looking, and this first text is appearing a little faster. So in order to make it a little slower, I'll expand this text and I'll make this offset from this point to this point. Alright, so now to add more text, simply just select your text layer and press Ctrl D to make a duplicate of this and then move it a little below. Now let's select this text and make it a little bigger than these both texts. So I'll make it something around this and let's place it at this point. Perfect. Alright, so this is how it's looking, and let's move this text a little away so this text animates after these both are done. Now guys, after this text appears, we want all of these texts to move up. So in order to do that, let's select all these and press U to see all the keyframes. And now on this null, let's move a few frames away, and now you can change its position to something like this. So the main text remains in the center. Now select these both keyframes and press F9 and then go to this graph, and then let's make it a little more smooth. So guys, this is how my animation is looking, and the text is moving a lot to the upside. So let's select this keyframe and change its position to something like this. Perfect. Alright, so now let's add another text. So I'll select this text and I'll press Ctrl D to make a duplicate, and I'll place it here, and let's change the text and I'll make it a little smaller, something like this. Alright, now again I will move this text a little away from the previous animation. Alright guys, so on this text we need to change the animation. So I'll go to this text and I'll expand this. I just want this text to move from this point to this point, so I'll expand this text. I will go to this animator and I will change its position. Alright, so this is how your animation is looking right now. And now let's add another text. So I'll press Ctrl D on this text and let's make a duplicate. Now for example, I want this text to appear from the top, so I'll expand this text and I'll go to its animator. At this point I want its position to be on the top, so I'll make it something around this. And let's move this text a little away so the animation of these two texts don't collide with each other. Alright guys, so now I want to add another text, and this will be a very big text, so I'll make a duplicate of this text layer. So I'll press Ctrl D. Let's move this on the top and place it after this text. You can play with the colors, font and sizes of this text according to your requirements. In my case, I am doing this. Alright, so now we want to show this word in and move this all text above. So I will go to this null layer, and till this point I want this to stay like this. So I'll make a point at this position and also the scale. And after this I want it to move upwards like this. And I want its scale to be something like this. Let's change the position again and set it like this. Alright, so now by selecting this and pressing this chart, you can select the position and you can make this chart a little more smoother like this. And on the scale, something to around like this. And guys, make sure you work on these graphs because this gives the details to the animation which you cannot do other way around. Alright, so now let's say I want this text to appear alphabet by alphabet, not complete words. So I'll expand this text and I'll go to its animator and then range selector and then advanced. And in this, instead of words, I'll change it to characters. So now as you can see, my characters are appearing instead of words, and this gives a decent look to this animation. Now let's add the last text to this tutorial. So I'll make a duplicate of this in. I will place this text at this point and I'll make it a little more bigger, something like this, and a little more bold. Now select this text and move it a little away so it starts after this. Now guys, in order to show this text, I'll select this null layer and I'll put a keyframe at this point, and then after a few frames I'll make it like this. And I will also scale it down to something like this. Let's delete this text for now and let's move it at this point. And now let's make these all graphics to the center. So I'll go to this null and I'll go to this keyframe and I'll position it to something like this. Now again select this null layer and go to this graph editor, and now by clicking on this position, let's make it something like this to make it a little more smooth. Now guys, in order to see this complete text appearing, I'll just make this a little more away and I'll make it a little more slower. And now by selecting your position and scale, go to this graph and now make this a little more smooth, as smooth as you can. So this is how your animation is going to look, and you can play with the keyframes and adjust them accordingly according to your speed and requirements. Let's add another text to this. So I'll click on this and press Ctrl D to make a duplicate, and let's move this text to this point. I will select this text and I'll make it blue. Let's make it a little smaller and align to this text on the top. And now in this text, I'll expand this text and go to its animator and then range selector, and then I'll change its, and in this advanced I'll change its characters to words so it appear as a word like this. And guys, till this point I don't want anything to change, so I'll click on these two, and then after a few frames I'll make it a little smaller, something like this, and then I'll position this to the center. Let's make this text to appear a little late, so it will go something like this. Now guys, to add a cherry on our top, I'll change the color of this background. So I'll click on this and I'll search for 4-color gradient. Let's drag and drop this on your background, and now you can play with the colors. So I'll make it a little dark. Let's move this color away from this and it looks perfect now. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. If you find this video useful, please subscribe, like, share to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.